All right, what we're doing here today is we've got this 92 Dodge Cummins. Uh, Basically, the brakes on this thing are bad. You can look here at the distance between basically the outer metal shell of the pad and the lining is in between there. You see, this is that's maximum tolerance. It shouldn't be hit. It shouldn't have went that far, because if you look at this, and here's the side, this is what we took off the other side. So you can actually take a look at the difference between the new ones as well as the old ones. I mean, this was almost to metal. I got some semi-metallic pads to put on here, local parts store. Only ones they had in stock for this. Depends on what you're going to do with your vehicle and what type of brakes or your budget as well. Some pads are better than going metal to metal. You'll take something that costs 30 bucks and you'll need rotors, you'll need everything. You'll go into hundreds, if not thousand. All right, so first thing I usually do before I remove the caliper, everyone does it different. There's a tool like a vise. You can, once you take this off, it squeezes the piston together. I'll show you that in a minute. I usually just use a pry bar or a screwdriver that's pretty good. Stick it in here where there's a notch, and it'll get it to move. And you just apply pressure easily and slowly. You can see it separating right here. If you look right in here, you'll see it's starting to come. It's just pushing the fluid all back to the master cylinder. So you just got to kind of take your time with it, and it'll go back. It's just slowly separating. There we go. You see right here how it's back against this disc almost. We've probably moved it as far as it can actually go. So we're going to take these two retaining bolts out. And this little clip here, basically it just keeps it from rattling and making noise, and of course holds it in position. And a lot of people, when you see larger wheels where it's way out here, the factory wheel rides right along this. And so in the event this comes apart, these bolts fall out or something, this caliper can't actually come off because the wheel holds it in position. It's just a lot of people, I don't know if you care or are interested, but that is something that's just a safety feature that's designed into the vehicle. And what I like to do, I like to set them in the position they came off so you don't mix them up. Once you've done that, you can remove the caliper. But one thing I like to never do, but people do it. Oh, look, I could actually squeeze this piston in a little more. You can see, look at the pad on that. It is almost completely gone when you compare it to a new one. But this piston is what moves in and out and clamps the brake pads against the rotor here. And there's the inner one. Not doing too good. You can see it's kind of moving under braking pressure, because when, you know, it's getting clamped down, it's trying to wiggle out of there. I don't like to let these hang. I always kind of put them up so they don't damage your brake hose. Because these hoses, I've seen people do it all the time. They just drop these calipers, and they're pretty heavy, and this hose it's going to get damaged, and it'll actually not allow brake fluid to come in or out. Maybe some in, but not back out. And it'll clamp the wheel down to where it can't roll, and it's because this hose is bad. So I usually don't ever let them hang. All right, so basically, another method of squeezing this piston into the caliper is with a pair of large channel locks, which I've pretty much done forever, which is, you know, there's different ways to do it. And what it does is it actually, you can put your, you don't want to just squeeze one side all the way. You want to make sure it goes in evenly. You can put a pad on this, like this. Oops, wrong side. You can put a pad on there like this. So then you'll pull it in evenly. It's a better way. Or you buy the tool, I guess. Some people have the tool. And what it's going to do is this fluid is going to get squeezed up through the hose back into your reservoir inside the vehicle or inside the engine compartment. So whenever you're in the vehicle and you push your brake pedal, it forces fluid through the master cylinder, which builds you the pressure and pushes it down in here and pushes this piston out, squeezing the wheel rotor to slow you down. I can get it on there. Gotta open it up a little bit more. And then you can see what's going on here. You can see it going in. You just got to kind of be patient because it's a little bitty hole that's trying to force this hydraulic fluid through. And whenever you notice your master cylinder is low on brake fluid, it doesn't mean you need more brake fluid usually unless you have a leak. It means that these pads have worn out and the fluid is all consumed within this area, pushing the piston out. So if you start noticing you're needing brake fluid, more than likely, unless you have a leak, you need pads or shoes, depending on what type of vehicle you have.
Maxi pads.
Maxi pads, the brand I prefer, because sometimes when I have heavy flow, that might, you see right here, see, someone has actually put brake fluid in this because you can see it dripping on the ground, overflowing. Rather than looking at the problem of why the fluid's gone, they just added more, and that's why it's squeezing it out. If you look through here, you see it dripping out of the basically the reservoir for the brake system. All right, yeah. You can take your wire brush, just trying to clean this debris off of here so it actually can slide along there, because you just basically have metal on metal contacts where this stuff rides on other metal components. So all kinds of grit and grime will cause them to wear more on one side than the other and do all kinds of weird stuff. So you want to make sure it's all clean and, well, you know, not like you're going to eat off of it. You can see where it's sitting. You just want to make sure it can move around. There's not mud and all kinds of stuff in there causing problems. And right here where the pad will rest against, because if you have dirt and rust and all kinds of junk in the way, the pad's not going to sit even, and you're going to start with a problem already. One thing to remember, you don't want to damage this dust boot. You tear this up, you're going to get dirt in there that's going to wear out extremely quickly. And then once you feel those guys are okay, clean off these little pieces, and then you insert your pads. So on this particular one, this pad will sit on the caliper mounting bracket, your spindle or steering knuckle, and then this guy will hang right on here. Turn it the right way. So it's kind of just locked into position once you get it on there. I like to slide the one side on there and just kind of be careful. Make sure you're not getting the hose bound up in something. You haven't twisted this around. Like, see, you got it went up there between the control arm and the steering knuckle. And once it's slid on there, this all looks good. Now you take this little spring plate here. Make sure you don't have tons of garbage or anything on there. Just clean it up a little bit, like that. And one thing to notice about these, I'll show you with the other one here. If you're uncertain on how you took it apart, take pictures. That's a key thing. But if you look at it and think about how it was built, a lot of times you'll see, okay, this looks like it works pretty good. This way, it's not really going to do anything. This is going to come out of there. So just, kind of keep an eye on how you're taking things apart if it's your first time doing these, or even your second time. Or I always try to pay extra attention to how things are done. That's why I set them to the side and make sure that they're going back in the correct position that they came apart. And a lot of times, it doesn't be just because you took it apart like that doesn't mean they did it right. You just kind of look at it and think about it and make sure for your safety and everyone else's. And like safety, we've got jack stands under here. We got wheel chocks. I mean, it's only takes a couple extra minutes, and it can be well worth it. And these are little bitty bolts, so you don't go crazy. Get them tight. Always start them by hand so you don't mess anything up. All right, and so basically that's the repair. And when you're in here looking, you want to look at some other things. Like you can see here, this control arm bushing is trashed. You see it separated, it's dried out, not doing good. This one over here, same situation. And so you kind of take this opportunity to see if you see any problems that are going to be showing up soon. And that's obviously one right there. And I'm sure that the lower control arm bushings are just as bad because they went more than likely just as far.